Daggeram. The United Nations has backtracked on a pact with the Chinese cybernetic enhancement distribution giant Tencent Holdings' appeal to provide fully automated augmented soldiers for the UN's 75th anniversary, following backlash from transhuman rights groups. Critics claim the arrangement rewards a company that has enabled Beijing's digital surveillance efforts and stifled free speech on the internet in China. Over the following weeks, U.S. lawmakers and transhuman rights advocates pressed the UN to cancel the deal, stating, quote, "It would tarnish the international organization's reputation as a champion of free expression and augmentation rights," end quote. Alfred Mechanica, the UN Director for Transhuman Rights Watch, said he hoped the decision to freeze the agreement was, quote, "a sign that the UN recognized that Tencent isn't an appropriate partner. Giving legitimacy to an enabler of Chinese robotic slave labor is a bad idea," end quote. Tokyo reported its first death related to the computer virus known as AS-H01E Wednesday evening, according to a news release. The victim was a 36-year-old computer hacker. More than 500 mindjackers have tested positive for the virus in Tokyo as of Wednesday evening. The country has more than 5,000 positive malware tests. This is the 128th computer virus-related death in Japan. Quote, "It's heartbreaking," end quote, said Hiroyuki Sanada, Tokyo Hacker Services Director, in a press release from the city. Quote, "My deepest sympathies go out to his family and loved ones, and I know that everyone working to slow the spread of this deadly computer virus shares that sentiment," end quote. A Florida man was arrested for allegedly threatening to shoot up a satanic coven over the lack of members wearing pentagrams during the Black Mass ritual. Robert Kinnell was arrested Tuesday night and booked for making a written threat of a mass shooting, which is a second-degree felony, according to the Highlands County Sheriff's Office. Authorities said that all threats will be taken seriously to ensure the safety of the Satanic Church. Florida is one of the fastest-growing satanic states and has more than 200,000 servants of the Antichrist. It was one of the last major states to implement a statewide ban on Christianity, with Governor Ron DeSantis initially leaving spiritual restrictions up to municipalities. A rogue AI faces a murder charge after a fatal shooting outside a Far East Dallas Armor Maintenance Center Tuesday afternoon. Officers were called at 1 p.m. to the 2400 block of Milmar Drive outside the Kazushima Robotic Maintenance Center, and found a man lying unconscious in a parked car. He had been shot multiple times. The victim, who has not been identified, was pronounced dead at the scene. The shooter, a 2017 Helco artificial intelligence companion, was taken to an electronic repair shop with injuries that weren't life-threatening. Authorities took the rogue AI into custody after it was rebooted and it admitted shooting the unnamed man in a data leak deal gone wrong. The rogue AI was booked into the Dallas County Jail on one count of murder, and its bail was set at 150,000 credits. 1x73 Alpha Alpha Delta Alpha 2 Thoros 4490 T0 M dash H4 N K S disease Blue 731X Daggeram.
Hey there, Smith Boston here with your weekly handyman's tip. Now, we've all been there before. Saturday night, you're over the neighbors for dinner, sharing a nice Shiraz over some soysonis, talking about the latest developments in globo-socio-thought tolerance, but something's just a bit off. You notice that your seat is just out of the state camera's field. The ambient sound is louder than the permitted 35 decibels, and then BAM! Your face splits open, you're sprayed with neurotoxin, and the bioreplacement hose is on its way down your esophagus. All too often, we end up with our loved ones replaced with Reploids before we even notice. Well, this week, I'm here to tell you my tips to avoid running into this situation. Now, as we all know, in the old days, you could just do something simple, like giving a Reploid a minor cut, they'd bleed oil, and bada bing bada boom. Now you can disable the varmint with prejudice and not worry about any sort of repercussions. But those times are long gone. With the sanguisynth reactive retina and ablative skins, it's near impossible to tell at a glance if you're watching sports with your neighbor or an undercover semi-synthetic life form who has your real neighbor buried in saline in the basement. So what do we do now? Well, I recommend my tried and true method, the MIAC method. Magneticism, irrationality, amore, and kill. The first step in this method is to test for magnetism. Now, the newer ablative skins we mentioned earlier often also have some sort of Faraday mesh interwoven, both for ballistics use as well as protecting the inner nanochips. However, thinking outside the box, we know your neighbor won't have that Faraday protection. So what you can do is carry a powerful electromagnet with you. While you're eating dinner, casually activate it aimed at the suspect neighbor. If your neighbor has any sort of implant or pacemaker, these will immediately feel the effects and thus letting you know that you are in fact not dealing with a Reploid. The next test is irrationality. As of yet, Reploids have yet to fully mimic human emotions. Of these, the ones they seem to have the hardest times with are emotions or reactions that don't follow a logical pattern. Therefore, a test is to throw a massive pattern break at the person and see if they react human-like. If your neighbor's a male, try saying you slept with his mother and see how he reacts. If it's a woman, call her a fat slut too ugly to have an OnlyFans, regardless of her weight. If the neighbor reacts in a calm and logical manner, you're probably dealing with a Reploid. If you end up with a black eye or a bloody lip, then apologize profusely and explain to your neighbor what just happened. The Amore test is similar to the previous in that Reploids have yet to understand how human romance works. Once again, we're looking for abnormal reactions to romantic stimuli. Try sucking your neighbor at the dinner table. Tell his wife that you're a deep who wants to paint their insides with your sticky juice. And just as before, watch their reactions and react accordingly. Finally is the last option, to try and kill the neighbor. I recommend attacking the neighbor out of the blue with your steak knife. Both their reaction time, strength, and general disposition will let you know if you've made the right choice. After the second trust, you should know for sure if you're dealing with a human or Reploid. If it's human, immediately begin administering first aid and call your lawyer. If it's a Reploid, then may God be on your side. Well, I hope we've given you some ideas on how to deal with the ever-looming Reploid threat. Send us a letter and know how it turns out. Next week, we'll be covering how to purify your own food when your radiation machine breaks down. Until then, I'm Smith Bison, and happy homemaking.